Hello and welcome to another episode of Hollywood Wargaming news updates for Star Wars Legion, and oh boy, we have a lot to talk about today. I unfortunately did miss the Atomic Mass Games stream today, and honestly, I had the feeling that we were going to have most of our Legion content front-loaded in the Ministravaganza on day one with that Scum and Villainy release, but boy was I wrong, we got a ton of stuff dropped on us today. So let's go ahead and start blowing through it based on the new content that was announced. And first up here, we are going to have something new coming to Star Wars Legion called Battle Forces. And from what we can gather so far, these Battle Forces are going to be special kinds of lists that can sort of bend the rules. And to me, sound like they're going to be a lot like the old formations from 4th edition Warhammer, where you could do things like, instead of running a standard platoon, you could take a tank commander and a couple tanks alongside it, and things like that. And I have to say, if implemented properly and written well, things like Battle Forces can be very fun to play, though I have to say they do tend to be a little bit hard to get right in the competitive scene, but hopefully the new Legion devs are going to be able to balance it well enough, and I am very curious to see how these Battle Forces are going to be implemented. We did also get confirmation that the new mercenary factions are going to be Battle Forces when run on their own, but can also be run as mercenaries in other factions, though there is some restrictions to how they are played, and it seems like taking Battle Forces are going to give you various advantages and command cards. Overall, a very interesting development and a very cool way to fit in units like the Shadow Collective and other characters who otherwise wouldn't be able to slot into those previously 4 existing factions. And overall, it does kind of feel like Republic Wookiees were a bit of a ruse, and this is how we're actually going to be getting sub-factions introduced into the game. So overall, very interesting. It could have pretty strong implications on how Legion is played in the future, or they could just be some extra vague guidelines that give us a few bells and whistles here. But I do have faith in it being a well-written addition to the game, seeing as it is tied into an entire wave release of models. It definitely doesn't seem like some sort of afterthought update, but it definitely is too early to start speculating on it. Just know that it is coming. On top of that, they did also hint at new Battlefield expansions coming, one that is going to be a heist, and another that is going to be a roaming animal scenario. And I have to say, I'm very, very excited for that roaming animal one. A huge question for us Legion players is how beasts and creatures are going to be implemented into the game, and it looks like we are going to see how that's done in the near future. And that is something that a lot of people were asking for, including myself, so I am very excited to hear about it, and I am very curious to see which monster or monsters are going to come in this box set. After that, they did address that there is going to be an errata and points adjustment coming soon, and as we saw in yesterday's stream, this is going to be affecting units like Darth Vader, who was confirmed to gain keywords like compel core units, along with some keywords added to some of his command cards. Now, if you guys know my channel, I don't really get into the nitty-gritty of erratas and things like that, but it seems like they're really trying to bring a lot of the older units into the fold, which I think is a very good thing, and my qualms about Rebel and Imperial players not getting a lot of love in the last video is something that has definitely since been remedied, and really the errata is just the beginning of that. As today, we were told that updated unit card packs are going to be released, which I think is a very good way going forward to update Star Wars Legion. I do like the idea of all these units having the hard print in front of us and not having to constantly reference it online somewhere. And I think these updated card packs will do very, very well. I hope they just do them by the faction, as it would be unfortunate if you get a pack and have to hawk a bunch of cards on eBay or elsewhere. But overall, as a player who actually had my cards stolen from my army at one point, it would be very nice to have a place where you can actually have those replaced somewhere. So unit card update packs is going to be a huge thumbs up from me. And it's just going to be a minor utility purchase that's going to greatly increase our quality of life when it comes to this hobby, and I do think a lot of people have been asking for this also. But also mentioned with these cards is the fact that these bounty hunters are now going to become mercenaries with updated unit cards, who are likely going to be able to play alongside with other factions, though we don't really know how this is going to work out mechanically. But it is likely a development that's going to come along with the Scum and Villainy release, so we will see in the near future. But lastly, in terms of news, we did get some very big teasers for future releases, starting off with the Mandalorian wave, something that I think a lot of people anticipated from the Into the Underworld announcement. So if you were a little bit upset about the Pyke Syndicate being the headliners there, it looks like the Mandalorian wave is going to be hot on their heels, and will likely tie into that Battle Force build of mercenaries and unique lists. And here we did have Boba Fett and some swoop riders spoiled. Obviously, this is the Mandalorian Boba Fett who will be appearing in the Book of Boba Fett show, though I'm not exactly sure who the swoop riders are going to belong to. But we did also get some name drops with Moff Gideon, Dark Troopers, the Mandalorian Din Djarin himself, and then also the Child, along with IG-11, who I am very much praying is going to be a cross-faction kit and also have IG-88 as an optional build. So it looks like I am getting some of those units I need to see checked off in this release wave, which has definitely remedied some of that day one disappointment I had. But let's be honest here, if those Dark Sun units hit the shelves the same time as the Mandalorian wave, they're just going to be gathering dust. But AMG went even further than this and started teasing at a few more things beyond the Mandalorian wave, including Ahsoka, along with Ewoks for the Return of the Jedi anniversary, and yes, they even hinted at Jar Jar Binks. So thanks to AMG and a lot of clarity here, they have given us a lot more window into the future than we even asked for. There's just so much to chew on here, and we haven't even got to the card reveals yet. So for anyone who has been really nervous about the future of Legion, this is very reassuring stuff. And hopefully international shipping will get back on track and we'll start seeing more frequent releases, and we won't end up being so starved for content. However, we did also get a ton of new cards leaked today. Not only did we get full reveals for the ISP Swamp Speeder and the Persuader class Snail Tank, but we did also get some reveals for the new Pyke Syndicate, though these do seem to be a bit of a work in progress. But first up here, we are going to have our two heavy vehicles that are going to cap off the Kashyyyk wave, and because this video is so dense with content, I am going to kind of blow over these units and give a quick overview, and save my thoughts for the in-depth unit review that will be coming very soon. And first up here, we are going to have the Infantry Support Platform, aka the Swamp Speeder, which is going to be a relatively lightly armored vehicle, but is going to be incredibly mobile and have some awesome fire support capabilities, thanks to the elite Star Corps pilot, who will give you Surge to Crit when a friendly unit fire supports with this vehicle. After that, we do have a pretty interesting method in which this unit can split fire, with Gunslinger being on its hardpoint upgrades. And though I expected something like Arsenal 2 here, this is a very unique workaround, and it is a cool way to do split fire weapons. On top of that, all three of these weapon profiles do seem to be very effective, and I really have to sit down and crunch some numbers before I declare any of these options as the standout weapon, though it seems like they are going to be different tools for different tactics. And at around 110 points with upgrades, I find this to be a very fairly priced vehicle that sits somewhere between speeders and tanks, and with a movement speed of 3 on that large base with hover ground, they could actually be quite useful in bombing run missions, but as a pretty respectable fire support platform in their own right, they could definitely be a unit that's taken in gunline lists, and then if you get an unsavory objective card, make use of that movement and run them forward on the table. So overall, I do quite like this unit card, and if this is the only thing the Republic is going to be getting for quite some time, I might actually consider picking one up. I definitely like it more than the LAT LE, and it may be more useful in terms of points efficiency than the Saber Tank, but let me know what you guys think about this new vehicle in the comment section down below. Fire support is super strong, and I could see this vehicle working its way into some competitive lists. But overall, I'm a little too overwhelmed with information right now to process this unit alone, so I would like to hear your input. But next up, we are going to have that NR-N99 Persuader class tank, also known as the Snail Tank, and here we are getting a unit that is pretty on par with what people anticipated. It is going to be an armored vehicle with a large wound count, though it's not quite as durable as the AAT, thanks to that white defense die, but we are going to have Arsenal 2 backed up by some pretty standard main weapons here, though our close range 1-2 ion cannons are going to have the Ion 1 keyword, meaning these tanks are going to be pretty good at assaulting enemy vehicles. But if you're not trying to go that route, we do also have the Ordnance upgrades, which will make use of those 3 missile cards we have, though I am keeping my fingers crossed for a new Ordnance upgrade in the near future. Perhaps maybe one that will let you do something like stack Ion. This will also be an open top transport, one that can move any trooper unit, something that is going to have very strong implications for how the Separatists are played. Not only can things like B2 battle droids ride this, but also other units like Magna Guards, or BX droids who can be both sappers and have vibroblades. So I look forward to seeing some really creative droid taxi lists. But lastly, this unit is itself a droid vehicle, so it will require that programming upgrade, of which we now have all 3 cards spoiled. And first up here, we do have attack protocols, which we already saw teased with the Dwarf Spider droid, but we also get the defense protocols that will give you AI dodge, along with the nimble keyword, which is only 3 points, much like attack protocols, and overall, I gotta say, I don't really like this one. AI dodge is not a great thing to have on most units, and I would much rather take the risk-reward of attack protocols that gives you precise 2. But lastly, we are going to have engagement protocols, which at 5 points is going to be the more premium of the cards that gives you some extra flexibility with AI move and attack. And this card is going to be very useful on a transport unit, and I think it will show up on the Persuader class tank more so than the other 2 options here. That being said, I am still a very big fan of attack protocols, as I don't think it's too hard to get around the AI on the turns where you don't want to be aiming. But the Persuader class is, after all, a transport, so I can see why you would spend the extra 2 points to get engagement protocols instead. But at around 150 points, I think this unit's efficiency is really going to rely on what units you put inside it. It's simply just not as shooty as the AAT, though I could see this vehicle being a huge menace against something like an AA5 list. But moving on, we did get some card reveals for the new Pyke Syndicate models. And first up here we are going to have the Pyke Capo, and this guy is going to be a pretty simple generic commander who will have some token sharing capabilities that are most notably linked to a Pyke Syndicate symbol on his unit card, which is likely a mechanic that they're going to use to bind these different mercenary gangs into their own subcategories. But overall, I gotta say, I'm surprised how simple this unit card is. Yes, we are seeing that new Syndicate symbol, and we are also seeing a new keyword with Independent 1, something that is going to play into how these guys don't really mesh with other command cards from different factions, should you choose to run them as mercenaries, which I think is a very cool way to implement these guys into the game. But overall, it's looking like these Pyke Syndicates are going to be a cross-faction, supplemental, inexpensive core option, who are going to have a few generic commanders who can either be run as personnel or their own generic officer-style units. And overall, I gotta say, this is going to be a pretty interesting way to add new tools to our list-building mechanics. And based on the lineup of the Pyke Syndicate squad, it is looking like we are going to be getting standard box sets that is going to give you a full squad of these mercenaries with their leader units in there, who again can also be run as a personnel, which I think is actually going to help the sales of these sub-factions a lot. It's one thing to say, hey, I'll go out and pick up a squad of Pyke Syndicates in case I want that tool in my list building arsenal, and it would be a whole nother ordeal if people had to go out and buy different commander, operative, and unit expansions just to field and play these niche factions. But lastly, we did get to see some upgrade cards here. I'm not going to talk too much about their heavy weapons, as they are somewhat generic, though it is interesting to see another whip show up here with a Mobilized 1, which at just 10 points implies this unit is going to be incredibly inexpensive overall. But where things get really interesting for me is with the personnel upgrades here, as we do have 2 new keywords, one of which is going to be on the Capo himself as a personnel upgrade, which gives the squad Independent Surge, meaning they will gain 1 Surge token along with that Dodge token on the base unit card whenever they don't receive an order. And the interesting thing here is that this is not AI, it's not something that requires you to make an action. Instead, you just get free tokens whenever you don't get issued an order. And while this mechanic may seem like a flat-out buff for the time being, it may play into how they operate as mercenaries in the future. So I'm really curious as to what future mechanics are going to be revealed that further play on this keyword. As for right now, I really don't feel like we're getting the big picture, though a free surge and a dodge does sound quite nice. After that, we are going to have a Pyke Syndicate Foot Soldier upgrade here, something that you think would just give you an extra mini, but we are also getting a special keyword here that says Cash Aim 1, and that allows you to place an aim token on this upgrade's card, and it will allow this unit to spend that token when they wish. A very cool mechanic and an alternate to things like specialist personnel upgrades, who traditionally exhaust to give out tokens, though I am wondering now if Atomic Mass Games is going to go back and spice up previously existing generic personnel, as it was seeming like a lot of players simply weren't taking them. So this, in my opinion, is a fantastic way to do just that, and also very befitting of something like a crime syndicate. So while I do find these unit cards somewhat bland overall, I do like the upgrades on them quite a bit, and I am now a little more curious in seeing how these mercenaries are going to fit into the game, as right now, again, I don't think we're getting the full picture on this unit, especially with no points revealed. But I definitely am starting to warm up to this Underworld release wave. It's something that I'm probably going to skip out, at least for now. But having AMG come out and announce a roadmap for the near future of Star Wars and hint that there is a ton of things on the horizon is something that has given me a lot of reassurance for the future of Legion, and I definitely now feel like other units and release waves haven't been thrown under the bus to instead release these crime syndicates. So a round of applause for Atomic Mass Games and all their employees at the Ministravaganza. Day 3 was a much more direct and coherent stream than Day 2, and personally, as a Legion player, I feel like that is something that has really helped reassure us. So while I am still suffering from an information overload thanks to all the information that was released today, I can definitely say that I am not stressed, confused, or concerned about Legion, and I hope that most of you who caught the stream feel the same way. But as always, if you guys enjoyed this video, go ahead, leave a like, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications. I now have the tools I need to do several of these unit reviews and cap off the Kashyyyk wave, so make sure you don't miss out on any of those videos by turning on notifications, and as always, until next time, take care.